How you doing, guys? Eric from Wasteland.com. We've seen a lot of the Western nations do some, weird sanctions, or mostly ineffectual, against Russia because of the actions in Ukraine, and shying away from totally cutting them off because we need their oil and natural gas and whatnot, but trying to pressure them in certain ways. But obviously, more than one person can play at that game, and I think that what we're seeing right now with China and the COVID resurgence is actually a kind of them being a sly way of them actually enacting their own sanctions on us with plausible deniability, or on the rest of the Western world, NATO, whatnot. Because we've seen, obviously their COVID numbers have probably been bogus all along, even from the very beginning, where they're reporting lower numbers than a lot of other people. They went to zero and we solved it, and now all of a sudden they're spiking back up again. But it's what they're doing as a response to that that has piqued my interest. And that is to basically shut down a lot of manufacturing and exports, and being like, oh, sorry, COVID. And as this article from Yahoo Finance said, a recent surge of COVID-19 cases in China tied to the Omicron variant could lead to continued global supply chain problems and even higher inflation, dimming hopes of a strong economic recovery this year. I don't know who they were talking to that has hopes of a strong economic recovery, but they need to get a new job, I think, than economic prognostications. Several leading manufacturing cities in China have ordered lockdowns in the wake of the country's biggest surge of COVID infections in more than 2 years, when this isn't happening anywhere else in the world in a way that makes people shut anything down. COVID is not even being talked about anymore, practically. And their pseudo-ally / partner, Russia, is beefing with everyone, and one of the biggest manufacturing economies in the world is now all of a sudden saying, oh, you know what, we're not going to be shipping you quite as much stuff right now. And it says Shenzhen, China's tech center and a major port, located next to Hong Kong, and Dongguan, another manufacturing center. Meanwhile, factories that make Toyota cars and Apple iPhones have halted productions. So definitely I don't think there's any way to make Western countries bend the knee faster than to mess with their iPhones. China's importance as a global manufacturing giant, the lockdowns are expected to create even more supply chain problems and product shortages. No shit. Just as much of the rest of the world is easing pandemic restrictions and eyeing a post-COVID economy. Any disruptions to Chinese exports that result in supply shortages could also drive international inflation higher. And like I said, I don't like that they always use inflation just to mean high prices. Inflation, if prices go higher because of a supply shortage, that's not necessarily inflation. Any price increase is not necessarily inflation, or shouldn't be. I know that's the way it's used colloquially nowadays, but the way it should be used is that inflation is an increase in the supply of money and credit, and prices sometimes result from that. Prices can result from other things as well, and you can increase the supply of money and credit in some situations without it resulting in increased prices, at least not in every sector. So just calling price increases inflation obfuscates the whole problem, which is probably what they're going for. But it all makes for a gloomy scenario for those who had hoped the global economy would finally find firmer footing after 2 years of nonstop headwinds. Like I said, I don't know who these people are that thought that was going to happen. A survey of fund managers conducted in the week through March 10th by Bank of America found that confidence in global economic growth is the lowest since 2008. So I definitely think that this is a non-COVID related, at least not directly. I think that China is doing this on purpose as a way to enact their own sanctions with and put the pressure on Western countries with plausible deniability, without it looking like a military action or any sort of diplomatic action, even though it's probably known by everyone in the various governments and intelligence communities they can't do anything about it, because what are you supposed to say? No, COVID's fake. So let me know what you guys think about that, and I definitely think we'll see more of this type of thing in the future, until the end game is when these countries move away from the dollar completely and maybe not even sell to the United States anymore. I mean, we just saw, I believe it was, Zero Hedge had another article about Saudi Arabia is considering accepting the yuan for Chinese oil sales. So we're already seeing major countries moving into unilateral trade deals, bypassing the petrodollar. That is huge. There's no other single more devastating thing for the United States economy than for the dollar to lose its reserve currency status, even if it doesn't lose it officially, to lose it in practical application is going to crush us, because that's all we have. That's literally all the United States exports is dollars right now in any meaningful sense, and manufactures. So it's going to get weird, but let me know what you guys think about China's COVID restrictions. Check out rulthewasteland.com, and I will talk to you guys later. Stay safe.